Well, hello everybody. My name is Rose Ross and I'm the co-founder of Tech Britannia, and I'm delighted to be recording this We Are Tech Britannia podcast with Sarah Bolt from Forth. Hello Sarah, how are you?
Hi Rose, I'm good, thank you. Very good.
Fantastic. Well, you've had a very interesting career and you are up for a nomination for an Every Woman Award, which is a NatWest initiative. Well, let's find out a little bit more about you and about Forth. So do you want to give a little bit of a potted history of your career and your journey so far, and then we can talk a little bit about Forth then?
Yeah, absolutely. Put it in context, Forth is a digital health tech company. I'm not a medically trained person. My background is largely in marketing. And so I've spent, longer than I want to imagine in marketing, over 30 years. But when I hit 40, I was working as a new product development manager for Dyson. I had 2 young boys. I was commuting 3 hours every day. And I just thought, do you know what? Life is not enjoyable. It's just not working for me. And I think kind of hitting 40 is just one of those ages where, for me, I kind of looked at my life and thought, well, you know, what is going to be my legacy in life? What imprint am I going to leave behind? And I just decided vacuum cleaners really didn't do it for me. So I resigned from my role, and I basically made a decision that I wanted to work within a business that had more social purpose and made more of an impact on society. And I'd reached the conclusion that healthcare was the area that I wanted to work within. So I actually took myself back to university. I did a master's in what's called social marketing. It's nothing to do with social media. It's about social impact and marketing for public good. So I did a master's degree in that. At the same time, I started working for the NHS on behaviour change campaigns. I then went on to become a strategy planner and work for private healthcare companies. And it was while doing that work in around 2013, 2014, that I really started to notice the beginning of this trend towards digital health. And as our smartphones became smarter and more sophisticated, there was an opportunity for them to get more involved in our own personalized healthcare and give people more data on their own bodies. And I just found it really fascinating. And, when Fitbit was first launched in the UK, I ran out and I bought it and I loved it. I loved the way that what it had done was taken an old concept. I mean, pedometers had been around for a very long time, since the 1980s. But they totally reinvented it for today's digital consumer. And it was that idea which just sparked an idea in my mind about, well, that is amazing, but how can we give people more relevant information? I get more in-depth information about their health, about what's going on inside their body, the part that they can't see. And that was the light bulb moment for me for starting Forth.
Brilliant. So could you tell us a little bit more about Forth as an app, because it has, a particular application that I understand, which looks at the menopause within women, and obviously that's women are constantly aware of changes in their body, whether that's through puberty, having kids, getting older, the menopause, the perimenopause, and all of these other amazing. We are very hormonal creatures, as are men, but perhaps in different ways. So what inspired this to look at? Because menopause has become a much more talked about topic. I mean, it was a bit taboo. It was seen as quite a negative. Women effectively coming to the end of their shelf life, which, is quite brutal.
Well, that's one way of viewing it, I guess.
In one sense, yes, purely in one sense. But it isn't something that I don't think that most women, they'll talk amongst themselves, but it's not really something that you want to necessarily talk about with, sort of generally speaking. But it's important, isn't it? It's important.
I think the world, the world is changing, and the things about menstrual cycles, hormone health, menopause, perimenopause. It's all being talked about much more in the open now, and I think it's not before time actually that's happening. But with Forth, initially with Forth, we have a wider kind of wellbeing mission as well. So for us at Forth, what we set about doing is we wanted to turn people into citizen scientists by giving them information about what was happening in their own bodies, and then educating them so they could take responsibility for their health, and then they could improve. So we're not diagnostic. So we're very much in the well-being market. So that's what we do. And so what we do was that we thought, well, actually what we can do here is combine technology with science. So we are that kind of mesh, I guess, that knits the both together. So we, as a service, we collect small biological samples at home from people, and then we take that data and we turn that data into intuitive graphics and further bioinformatics. So that's what we started out to do. And as I've developed the company, I've become more and more interested in female health, and become more aware, I guess, of the gender data divide in healthcare. And there is a gender data divide in healthcare, because a lot of the information we have on the human body is actually derived from the male human body, not the female human body. And so there is this massive data gap on how females react. So female body will react different to certain pharmaceuticals. They will present with different diseases differently. So for example, for heart attacks, women present completely different than men in heart attacks, which is why more women die of heart attacks than men. And I think that'd be a surprising statistic for people, because we associate heart attacks, I think, more with males, but actually more women are prone to die with it because it's not picked up, because they don't spot the signs. So I was really interested in female health, and I'd be going through the perimenopause myself whilst I was developing Forth, the company, and realized what a huge impact it actually has on a woman's life and the way that they feel on a day-to-day basis. And I think for me, that was just being pushed out of under the carpet. For me, my mother never talked to me about it. I didn't even think about the menopause at all, and assumed, well, that would be sometime in my 50s that would happen, and didn't really realize actually the impact of that can happen early from your early 40s. It starts to impact on your health and how you feel. And I started to talk about it with my friends, and they were all experiences really bad symptoms from depression, into the mind fog, the general forgetfulness. And, no one had really warned us that this was going to happen to such an extent, and it would be such a big impact on our lives. So that really started us at Forth looking into how could we improve the information given to women around hormones, because we felt for too long hormones had really been in women, and they are important in men as well, but hormones have been really talked about largely in terms of fertility and reproduction. And actually hormones have such a massive impact on your general well-being and your health for men and women. And this wasn't being recognized and talked about, and women didn't really understand how their hormones actually fluctuate throughout their menstrual cycle, and the impact any kind of changes in those hormones was going to have them. And particularly with women in the perimenopause, women were and still are, women want certainty that they're entering the perimenopause, so they can understand almost, we need to put label on things that helps us deal with it. And women are not able to get this label for various different reasons. So we looked at, well, how can we combine a minimum amount of blood samples and combine AI to actually give women more certainty. So we won an innovation grant from Smart Cymru, which is the Welsh government, to develop this product. which combines AI with blood sample collection and medical expertise as well, to really give women a very personal insight in how each of their 4 key hormones fluctuate throughout their entire length of their own individual cycle. And from that, they can then take action, whether it be, well, actually, my hormones are at such a level, I want to go on HRT, or if you're younger, then actually I need to delve deeper into why my hormones are fluctuating in a non-standard pattern.
Fascinating, isn't it? Really quite so complex. But when you were talking about, I hadn't really thought about this data divide, and I'm sure it's true for other types of, I wouldn't say minorities, because women are actually in the majority, but different people, and it's it is horses for courses with medicine. And I was a huge fan of House, and I always used to love the fact that most of the problems were the fact that there were 2 conditions layered on top of one another, or one was presenting like another. So it's a little bit like a bit of a puzzle, really, for most women, because you've talked about the 4 hormones, and I mean, testosterone is one of them as well, I presume, that you're looking at. And as you say, for all of these various elements, the hormonal imbalance, so for example, changes can impact so many different aspects of your life, and therefore impact your quality of life. Totally. And a lot of it's avoidable. There are a lot of things that women can do that aren't necessarily HRT, but also understanding how your body interacts with caffeine, alcohol, how important exercise is. I mean, this is something that's been big, hasn't it, over the whole of the pandemic, is we've all been reassessing these things. And I think, hopefully more people are taking exercise, but it's such a great opportunity to have a huge impact on half the population.
Oh, we are really so excited by it, because it truly is groundbreaking, and it gives women really the insight that they've been looking for, that has just been missing for them. And yes, you don't need to jump to HRT. That is every woman's own personal decision what they do, but you get to realize that actually there are some lifestyle factors that really are at play in hormones as well. For example, sleep. Inadequate sleep, disrupted sleep will affect your hormone pattern. And that is why, and also your nutrition will affect your hormone pattern. Doing exercise will impact your hormone pattern. And that's why you hear I'm not going to say extreme athletes, but professional athletes, that's why you hear as well with female pros that sometimes they have problems with their hormones, and that is because they might not be fueling sufficiently, so their energy in, energy out matrix is off kilt, and that will have a massive impact on their hormones, which will then lead them into having more injuries, because estradiol is really important for bone health, and so your bones become weakened, and it happens in men as well with testosterone. You hear about cyclists that actually their bone health starts to deteriorate when they're in their 30s, and that part of that is to do with their hormone levels and their lack of impact exercise as well. So it is really hormones are really important. Now, our chief medical officer is an endocrinology expert, and hormones are her passion. She will just talk day in, day out on hormones, because they are so integral to everything that goes on in our bodies.
Exactly. So how do you see the future sort of panning out? How women, is this something that you will work with the NHS around? Are there are lots of societies, I would imagine, that look at these types of things? What's I wouldn't say your go-to-market strategy, but how are you going to be partnering, engaging with women and giving them access to this? Because this, sounds like it should be something that all women across, a long period. I mean, because it could be used in puberty as well, because that's a bit of a minefield.
I mean, from the time that you have a menstrual cycle and you have a regular and natural menstrual cycle, you can start monitoring hormones. So you can start monitoring them for all stages of your life. And, particularly, where women make a decision to have children later in life, you could actually start monitoring your hormones and seeing when they're starting to go into decline. So there was all kinds of applications for it. I think for us, I mean, would we work with the NHS? Yes, we'd love to work with the NHS, but the traditional pathway of innovation in the NHS is 20 years. And we'd be making a very long time if we just held on for them. And what we find now, and what we find with our general service as well, is that people are making their decisions themselves, that they want this information. So our go-to-market and our business from the start has been, let's go direct to the consumer, let them decide, let them create noise about it, and then the rest, the corporates and the institutions will follow. And that will be our strategy as well with female hormone mapping. Although we also see, obviously in female clinics, we can see that they would find the way that we map hormones very, very useful. There's also the possibility for us that we just to supply a technology platform to people, and so they could access the report and how the report works anywhere in the world by just inputting key data information, and then our system would spill out the actual mapping report for them.
Yeah, so that would fit into existing healthcare structures and systems.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Then be mapping it. I mean, do you see academias also? The university hospitals would find something like this incredibly useful.
I think there's lots of. I think what we're finding already with the results is, there's lots about kind of hormones that we don't understand, and doing this work is actually pulling up some interrelational patterns that we're not aware of. So it's going to be really interesting, kind of more clinical studies that we could do with it, and how we can present data going forward, and what we really learn from it. So I think there is the opportunity to work with academia with it. There's also the opportunity to work with the professional sports industries in it. I think there's also opportunities to work with, people like the MOD, where you're looking at, female soldiers and the influence of training on female soldiers' health and their hormone levels as well. So there's really lots of areas that this could be applied for.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I was listening to the head of Strategic Command's J-Hub, which is their innovation hub. And I can't remember the gentleman's surname, but his name is Peter. So I will connect you if I can, because I was thinking about that and I thought, is that too spurious? But they said that they are working with a lot of organizations that, they wouldn't normally be able to, as in smaller organizations. And yeah, I think that'd be fascinating. But I also think it'd be fascinating to be looking at the impact on both male and female soldiers.
Well, yes, I mean, and that, we have plans afoot as well.
Plans afoot. That sounds
plans afoot.
Marching, perhaps.
To look at hormones within men as well. But for us, and as a female founder, that's the thing about being a female founder, or being a founder in any business, is you can get to spend times on your passions as well, and kind of direct the business towards some things like that, obviously, if it makes commercial sense. So for us, and certainly next year, our focus is very much on female health and female hormone mapping. And I think it's come at the right time as well, because femtech is really advancing at the moment. There's a lot of noise around femtech. It's not getting all the investment it needs, but there is a lot more investment going to female-led femtech solutions out there now than there was, a year ago.
So that's interesting you're saying. It's not getting the kind of investment that it needs. And I'm sure that, obviously I'm not sure what your investment model is. Perhaps you can, dive into that at some stage. But why do you think femtech is not getting that interest?
Well, I think it's female-led businesses don't get as much, investment. I think the UK government did a study a couple of years ago, which is kind of frightening when you hear these stats. So for every pound that is invested in a startup, 1 pence of it goes to a female founder led business. 10 pence goes to a mixed gender led business.
Oh, so I see, male and female. Got you, yep.
And 89 pence goes to male founded businesses. So you can see that there is a big difference in the amount of investment going into female-led businesses, and femtech businesses are largely led by females because they understand the problem much better than that they're trying to solve. But I think that the situation is changing. I've led 3 investment raises for the business. We just closed out one last week. So the situation is, thank you. The situation is changing, and I think VCs they have spotted that actually there is this growing opportunity for them in femtech and in the hormonal health market. So they are looking at this, and they're starting specific funds, and there's funds being led by female investors as well. So I think the times are changing. We've still got a long way to go, but times are changing.
Well, hopefully you'll be a big part of that, with the kind of stuff that you're doing, empowering women.
I hope so.
To live, I hate to coin this phrase, to live their best life, but without the impact of some of the things that hormonal imbalances or hormonal issues can cause.
And I think, that phrase is actually really important because, our actually strap line of our business is your personal best. And it is tying into people's motivation, I guess, to want to live their best life, to want to feel at their best, and their increased engagement of, okay, what can I do to help improve that, to help improve my life and my health so I can feel at my best.
Well, I mean, a lot of people do invest on trying to do the King Canute with age, don't they? With stuff on the outside, but this is something that actually could not only have a positive impact on how you look, because obviously if you're happier and healthier, you're always going to look better, right? And also, your weight is probably going to be more reflective of where you'd want to be rather than perhaps not. But I think the way that you feel inside is also really important. Let's face it, people haven't seen us apart from on a Zoom call, for the last 2 years,
Yeah. I mean,
in reality, that internal relationship with how you feel is incredibly important. And I think another thing that you mentioned, it was actually when you were talking about your own experiences of having kids, and then obviously realizing that you were perimenopausal, because women are not deciding to delay, but are delaying when they have kids. You are starting to butt up against perimenopausal potentially when you've got very young children, which, let's face it, they're not a great combination. No sleep, lots of stress, probably juggling quite a high profile, or at least a very intense job to keep the money coming in while I think women in their 40s, they have a lot of things coming at them all at once. So you're right, they are having children later, so they still might have young children or teenage children, not sure which is worse. But right now I'd say 17-year-olds that are about to become 18 are absolutely the worst.
And also they're thinking about their career. They're starting to look at their career, about changes that they may want to make in that. They might also have their parents are getting older, and there might be some care issues around that to be dealing with. And you're often in long-term relationships, which comes with another challenge as well. And on top of all that, you become perimenopausal. It's I think it's a hard time for women, I think, in their 40s.
Well, I'd say in the 50s, because I'm 54 and I've got all of those going on.
And continues, yes.
Yeah, it doesn't stop. I hate to tell you this, it doesn't stop.
It's relentless.
It never, just goes on and on and on. Fantastic. So is there anything else you'd like to share with people? Because, you know, you've had a lot of experience. You've done the whole shift, pivoted around in your own career. What's next for Sarah? What would you like to achieve? You know, if we have this conversation again in 5 years' time, what would you like to have been the highlights of that time?
I think I guess the purpose for me has always been to make an impact. So if I can deliver on a business that makes a difference to people's lives, then that's kind of job done, really, for me. And I really hope that the innovations that we're making in healthcare, you know, female hormone mapping being an example of that, can really help give people that extra insight that they need throughout their health. And, you know, in 5 years' time, you know, I'd like to see kind of what we developed in female hormone mapping being a blueprint for how you actually measure hormones in women, you know, right across the world. I mean, if we can do that within 5 years, and I think, tick, I've done a really good job. Brilliant.
Well, I'm absolutely convinced you'll be having that type of conversation, perhaps not the whole world, but I think there should be hopefully a good proportion of it thinking about things from a fourth perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always, I mean, when you've got a business, there's always lots to do, because you don't stand still. And that's, I think, one of the things that you have to do as a business. You know, I would say you stand still at your peril. You've got to always be looking, because, you know, life is always fluid, and it's constantly moving. So you have to move with it. And you know, hopefully what we do as well is come up with some innovations to lead it as well.
Fantastic. Well, I wish you the very best of luck. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, that was Sarah Bolt from Forth, who's the CEO and founder, and I'm sure she'll be telling us more about the new raise and what comes of that in the future, and wishing you the very best of luck with the award on the 7th of December.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that.
For you. Fantastic. Well, I'm Rose Frost, and I'm the co-founder of Tech Britannia. And if you'd like to find out more about what we're up to, please visit the website at www.techbritannia.co.uk, or visit us via social on Twitter at Tech Britannia, and find us on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.